Hey guys, this is Pat Jenkins of On the Hill Media and voice of Fayetteville High Bulldogs Athletics. Make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel, that's On the Hill Media. Make sure you hit the bell for all notifications. As we say, let's get it. And welcome in and welcome here live at the SWAC Center on the campus of Fayetteville High School in Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's the Casey Dick Show, the inaugural Casey Dick Show of the 2025 season. And Coach Dick will be joining us here shortly. But I'm joined by one of the new coaches. We had a little turnover, but Coach Jimbo Scrimshire has just now become the D-back coach. And, Coach, welcome to Fayetteville.
Yeah, hey, it's good to be here. Yeah, coaching corners this year. Always been on the defensive side of the football. Now I get to coach just two guys. They're just 53 yards apart. So, yeah, it's been great, yeah.
What went into the decision, Coach? I know you had a really nice job, was the D-back coach at Springdale.
Yep.
I should say that other school.
Yeah.
Deciding to come to Fayetteville. What went all into you deciding to make that jump?
Yeah, and I had a great job there. They gave me an opportunity, to let me come in and work with those guys, and Coach Brett Hobbs does a great job there. Nobody loves Springdale Bulldogs more than he does.
Right.
And he does a great job there. And I really wasn't looking for a job, and this one came open, and it was kind of a no-brainer. I mean, to come to a place with championship athletics like we have here. And it was really hard for me to make that decision, but it's been great. Great kids here, great athletic administration, and great coaching staff. Like you said, we've got 3 new guys on the coaching staff and all 3 on the defensive side of the ball, and we're all really excited to be here. Yeah, we think we've got a great group in our room, but then also in the locker room next door too. So it's exciting. Yep.
Now you have quite the history in high school football. Springdale was one of many stops. Talk about just your journey and how you got into coaching.
Yeah, so I actually when I got out of school, I volunteered for a couple of years at my old high school. And I'm kind of weird, man. I'm an English teacher. I don't know if you knew. Yeah, I've got an English degree. So my old English teacher retired at Glen Rose, and Mark Keener, he was the head coach there then. He was the athletic director now, but he called and said, hey, we've got a spot for you if you want to come and coach linebackers. So they added me as a coach, and I was coaching linebackers where I went to school at, and we won a championship there as a player. So coaching was always something that was kind of on my radar, and then it became real. And I worked there for 6 years. I was the DC for 4 of those years and coached the whole back end and linebacker crew. When you're at a small school, you got to do a whole lot. And got the call to Farmington and came up, and Coach Eldridge gave me an opportunity there, and I had a connection with some other guys there and worked there for a year, and it was great. And some things changed in some people's lives, and so I was trying to control my own destiny a little bit, and Springdale happened, and that was great for me. And then this thing just kind of fell in my lap. I really felt like God had his hand on all of that, and because there were a lot of another podcast or another episode. There were a lot of things that just fell into place for me to wind up right here in this room with you. So yeah, it's been a great journey. I've got the privilege to coach under 3, now 4 really great head coaches that have won a ton of football games. So I've had a lot of great experience in that regard. Yep.
When you talk about Glen Rose, Springdale, Farmington, and now here Fayetteville, different levels here in the state of Arkansas. Yep. Coach, when you compare or contrast all 3, I mean, what makes high school football in Arkansas just so much different than, say, an Oklahoma or a Missouri?
Yeah, I mean, my experience with Arkansas kids, like kids are kids. They all have different experiences and backgrounds, and being able to coach at 4 really unique, different places. If you know anything about Glen Rose, it's completely different from Farmington, which is completely different to Springdale so I've had a lot of really different experience. But kids are kids. You treat them right, you coach them hard, and you show them that you're going to hold them accountable, but also come back through and love on them in the right way.
Right.
Love them hard. No such thing as tough love. You either just love them or you don't. So to me, kids are kids. Now, those different levels, obviously, there are some special players in this league that are going to go on and do some great things, individually and collectively with their next teams that they move on from here, which you had, a handful of players in the 3A and same in 5A. But at the end of the day, kids are kids, and if you go out and just do things right, I mean, I think everybody's got great schemes across the board, but you go out and do things right and teach the little things and get kids believing in what you're selling, they'll end up running through a brick wall for you, and we've got that here with our kids. As far as other states, I don't know. I can't really say a whole lot because I don't have a lot of experience in that way, except for with Friday night's team. A lot of great players on that field.
Right.
There were some really, really talented kids on that field Friday night, both sides of the ball. So I could say they're doing things right in Oklahoma for sure.
Talking with Coach Jimbo Scrimshire, Fayetteville D-back coach. Heading into the next 2 weeks, Coach, let's go back to Cabot, and just here recently the 18-17 overtime victory versus Broken Arrow. In the first 2 weeks of non-conference, what have you found out about your secondary? Because you got some pretty good dudes. I know Brody Jones, I believe the senior, just recently got an offer from Missouri. But talk about that room of yours.
Yeah, we've got some really talented kids that can do a lot of things. Brody's obviously one of the most talented kids I've been around. Extremely coachable, physical, violent, but can run like a deer too. He's got everything where a team like Mizzou ought to come in and scoop him up, and anybody else, in my opinion. But then we've also got guys like Cole Mobley who can come in and do it all for us. He's a great kid, really smart, knows our defense, and can do it all. He played a lot of snaps at safety the other night, so he can do it all. C.J. Bailey is a young up-and-comer who's a sophomore that is probably one of the most talented athletically, but he's young and he's learning and he wants to be great. He's coachable. Christian Bailey is coming along. He's gotten light years better since I've been here. Not that it's me doing anything, but just seeing his development and coming along. He's going to be a special player for us this year, even though he hasn't taken a lot of snaps. There's going to be some snaps where, there are big moments in the game and he's going to be in it. Charlie Garton's a safety for us that knows our defense, can do it all. He's a great program kid. You look at him, he doesn't really look the part to be in this league, but he'll go cut down, the best player on the field.
Right.
And Kendrick Williams is obviously a great player as well and does a great job and can do a little bit of everything. He can cover well, but he's also a big body that can get down in the box. So we've got a really dynamic group. And then we have some guys like Blake Johnson that come in and support as well and are growing and developing. So we've got, 7 or 8 guys that can really help us back there and do a really good job. And they fit what we need schematically as a defense to accomplish all those goals. And we do a lot of things. So there's a lot of mental load on those kids, and they do a great job with it. Yep.
Talking with Jimbo Scrimshire, defensive back coach here on the KC Dix Show, the initial KC Dix Show here of 2025. Coach, I want to talk about the family. And I know you're a devout family guy.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about the Scrimshire household.
Yeah, so it's kind of wild there. My wife Mary and I, we've got 4 kids. Blake, my oldest and only daughter. Trey's my oldest son. Leo is my middle son. And then Titus is our youngest. They're all 2 years apart. 7, 5, 3, and 1, all stair stepping down. So, we went into Lowe's yesterday, and God did a double take. Said, "Man, y'all got a basketball team." I was like, "I know, man." So, but family's so important, and I've been really fortunate again to work for 4 different head coaches that, hey, we're going to be up here, we're going to get our work done, but y'all need to go be with your family, and that's always been really important for me. And to move, we're from Central Arkansas. We moved 3.5 hours away from a lot of our family to come up here, and it's just even more so important whenever you do something like that, a big life event. But we're also finding, we're family here too as well. The Fayetteville Bulldog family. So really, really important for us. But at the end of the day, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, and then I just happen to be a football coach and a teacher. And I try to really do a great job of all those different things. Not that I do all the time, but, man, I'm trying to get better every day with them. So my family's really important, and they love it here. So you'll see them around, a bunch of blonde-head kids. You'll see them running around, and, they'll be cheering on the Purple Dogs.
When you look at these previous 2 weeks, Coach, what do you like, that you've seen on Friday night, that you have on tape, heading into the off week? And then what's the off week going to look like for your group and the Fayetteville Bulldogs?
Yeah, one thing about our team is we'll go out and compete, and it doesn't matter who it's against. We're going to go out and compete hard. I think as a defense, we get to the ball really well with a purpose. Now we got to start tackling better. We've got a lot of missed tackles that we're going to clean up, and that's to be expected early in the year because it's hard to tackle. You don't want to tackle your offense to the ground, but then it's hard to simulate tackling in practice if you're not doing it live. So we got to tackle better. We're getting to where we need to be, and we're leveraging it in the right way, but we got to tackle better. So that's a skill we're going to work on. There are a couple other things that we're going to try to clean up in this bye week. You know, to me, a bye week is about continuing to get better, which it's hard for kids when they don't have a target on Friday to point all their energy to. And so our job as coaches is, hey, focus on skills, and then we'll tell you who we're going to focus those skills towards as time goes on. But that's tough for kids because they get a little anxious, a little ADHD kicks in. You know, you want to go and play somebody on a Friday, but a bye week's good if the kids will attack it right, and it's our job as coaches to get them to attack that right, you know, and focus on how we can get better, even though we're not playing somebody on a Friday.
Talking with Coach Jimbo Scrimshire, Fayetteville D-back coach here on the Casey Dick Show for those that have just joined. Today's show is brought to you by Lindsay and Associates and the Grease Pig Lubin Tune. Coach, when you go out and you look at kids, I mean, what is if you were to draw up a defensive back for Coach Jimbo Scrimshire, what does that defensive back look like?
Yeah, it's, to me, of course, I'm biased. I mean, it's the toughest position because if we don't do our job, then it's a touchdown. You know, our job in the secondary is to be that secondary line of defense, right? You know, and all the props to Coach Harris. I think he does a great job with the D line and Coach Davis and Coach Craig with those linebackers. But whenever those guys aren't right, it's our job to, you know, make them right and fit those runs and clean it up and live to play another play. So to me, a D-back, he's got to be able to do it all. And I saw this a couple years ago, so I'm stealing it. It said something like a D-back's got to be a boxer at the line of scrimmage, so he's got to be physical, but then he's also got to be a basketball player within 5 yards. He's got to be able to move and change direction, but then he's got to be a track star after 10. So you got to be. I know it's a tough.
I like that.
Yeah, and I can't remember where I saw it, but it's a tough call. You know, you got to be able to do it all. And if you don't do your job, everybody's looking at you because it's a touchdown. You know, so it takes a really short-term memory. You got to be able to flush something bad when it happens because it's going to happen. There's so many great receivers and quarterbacks in this league. They're going to make some throws and catches, and we just got to be okay with that mentally. But then physically, the things that they have to do, it really takes a lot to be physical in the run game, but finesse it in the pass game and cover some of these guys that can go out and get clean, you know, clean receptions and in traffic. And so it takes a lot. But to me, we can teach you those skills if you're willing to learn them. But the mental energy is really tough because, again, you don't do your job, somebody's band's going to be playing.
Right.
And that's tough on kids, especially you're 17 and all the lights are on you. So just teaching short-term memory and, hey, it's okay. You know, we're going to get back. We're going to go get after it and just flush it and let it go.
Last question, Coach. When you look at your secondary, the one thing that does jump out, and we talk about it, it's invaluable, the experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
No
you
doubt.
look at 4 senior guys in Jones, Garton, Williams, and Mobley. I mean, how big is that to have those 4 seniors that's played so much ball?
No doubt. You can't teach experience. And you know, we'll have some growing up to do next year, and we'll be sitting here again saying, hey, we got some growing up going on. You'll be seeing it, which is why, you know, I've always been about player development and the program. So, you know, we got guys like C.J. Bailey that are going to get to play quite a bit this year and learn some of those growing pains now. So next year they're those experienced guys. Christian Bailey. There's some young freshmen that I think are going to be able to help us as time goes on. So I'm always looking a couple years out. I've had to everywhere I've been. So it's important to develop those guys, but there's nothing like experience, you know. And whenever you've got 4 seniors across the board, you know, hey, these guys been to war, they've been to battle. I mean, these guys as sophomores won the state championship, and some of them played in that. So they've been there and they know what it takes, and you're really counting on those guys to have that experience, but then sharing that with the other guys, especially when something goes bad or it's a tight game. We're not losing our mind. We just know, hey, so what, now what, next play? And it takes those guys having gone to war to learn that. There's no way to learn that lesson other than to just go out and do it. And we're really fortunate to have 4 guys that have been there and we can really lean on as a foundation for our defense.
Well, I know the Fayetteville Bulldogs are really fortunate to have Coach Jimbo Scrimshire here at Fayetteville coaching their DBs. Hey, we'll be back with more. It's the KC Dix Show
All right.
on the Hill Media TV.
All right, thanks, guys.
Hey guys, this is Pat Jenkins of On the Hill Media and voice of Fayetteville High Bulldogs Athletics. Make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel that's On the Hill Media. Make sure you hit the bell for all notifications. As we say, let's get it.
And handoff, another 5-yard pickup down to the 15-yard line, right around the 15-yard line, 16. You know, so what we're seeing here with the run game is that they're trying to put us in a position to where they want to test that D-line. And so with both of these lines doing a phenomenal job in the first half, now we're coming back seeing that Broken Arrow's trying to establish a line of scrimmage.
Would you add another lineman?
Absolutely.
DC?
Absolutely, I would.
Shotgun set. Twins left. Little swing pass out in the flat. He's going to get around the corner.
Not a good angle.
You'd like to see Williams come with a little better angle than that.
Bailey on the stop. First and goal, Broken Arrow.
And I can understand being back a little bit to give yourself room, but with this shorter field, I mean you should be up on especially number 5.
First and goal at the Fayetteville 5-yard line for Broken Arrow. Here early in the third quarter, 3-0 Bulldogs. Empty backfield, shotgun set.
Just power
There's
football.
motion. He's going to keep it. And he's going to get down to around the 2.
Pat, that was that other wrinkle I was telling the Broken Arrow have. They got 3 different quarterbacks. They had a quarterback that they're starting and 2 other guys on the offense that starting that were former quarterbacks. And number 9 and number 5.
Yes.
Number 9 is mainly used in that goal line, almost wildcat kind of deal, and number 5 is going to be used in an open field kind of session that they do use.
Second and goal, ball at the 3-yard line for Broken Arrow, Fayetteville.
Yeah, it's just power football. You know, one receiver out, one back, everybody else down, hand in the dirt.
Absolutely.
You're going to have to stop them.
Is that a tush push?
There's a snap, and he's not going to get much. He's not going to get much.
He's in there.
They're going to get the touchdown. Satemba for Broken Arrow. As they'll take the 6-3 lead with 9:21 to go here in the third quarter.
One thing I'll say is now you've seen what they second half adjustment is. You know, now it's time to make our adjustment and see exactly how we can switch this back over to our advantage. Because Broken Arrow obviously wants to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
Extra point attempt. Set. The snap, the kick is up. And the kick is good. So with 9 minutes and 42 seconds here in the third quarter, Broken Arrow takes the lead 7-3 over the Bulldogs as they score on their initial drive here of the third quarter. First touchdown of the ball game for either team. It's going to be really important, guys, I believe, that Fayetteville comes back and they have to answer this score because knowing as we do Coach Jay Wilkerson on that other side calling plays, he can get in a rhythm and make it real difficult.
Right. And, Pat, I will say on in that voice you just spoke on, it was easy for him to call plays right there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Hand the ball off, run the ball.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
And it seemed to be effective.
Absolutely. You can definitely see he made some adjustments at halftime. Back deep, Johnson, Taylor, and Johnson for the Bulldogs. What an environment. Tonight's game is brought to you by Lindsay and Associates, First Choice Protection Systems, and the Grease Pig Lube and Tune. I want to thank our proud sponsors for tonight's broadcast of Fayetteville Bulldog football here on the Hill Media TV. Festive environment, guys. I mean, a lot of purple here on the home side, and when you look across, quite a few came from the BA area and that Tulsa area as well to watch their Tigers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was a big-time matchup when they set it up last year. We had a bunch of people.
Hey, guys, this is Pat Jenkins of On the Hill Media and voice of Fayetteville High Bulldogs Athletics. Make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's On the Hill Media. Make sure you hit the bell for all notifications. As we say, let's get it. And welcome back here live to SWAC on the campus of Fayetteville High School, where it's the Casey Dick Show, brought to you by the Grease Pig Lube and Tune and Lindsay and Associates. And Coach, we just had on Jimbo Scrimshire, your D-back coach. Talk about the new coaches, that you brought on, because I think you brought on 3 new ones. Just talk about how that transition's been going.
Yeah, it's been great. I think obviously each one of them bring something different to the table. You start with Jimbo. He's a very technician type driven coach and loves to drill in technique and fundamentals, really big on relationships and digging into kids' lives and really finding out what makes our kids go. And he's done a great job of that since he stepped foot on campus, at everything. He's a very driven, passionate coach as well that really wants to succeed and really wants to do the best job that he can do all the time. So, and then over there on the defensive side, to stay over there too, you have Coach Pankey, obviously coming over from Conway High School, got a lot of experience down there, putting together a great defense as their defensive coordinator. Had some battles with him over the years.
Yes,
as well,
have.
And got to see him work, firsthand. And we're just able to be, very, very fortunate to get him on campus here, and let him be back there and work with our safety. So very fortunate for both of those. And then the last one, Coach Craig, just bringing in a lot of wisdom. A guy that's been a coach for 31 years now, been a head coach or, in some capacity, a head coach AD in that role for about 21 years of that. So, he's been at all ends of the spectrum, has a lot of wisdom on how to deal with a lot of situations in all the areas that, we need. So he's been a great addition to our staff, coaching the linebackers and our head freshman coach, and just very fortunate to have all 3 of those guys on our staff. And, they each bring something unique to the table for sure.
This is our initial show. For those that have just tuned in, we'll be having Coach's show each and every Monday. But 2 games in now, Coach. And what have you pretty much kind of start to get the idea of what your team will be like for the 2025 season?
The first game I thought we came out and played really, really well. I thought we were firing on all cylinders and did, started fast and continued to build. The second game, obviously, last week against Broken Arrow, the first half just wasn't really happy with overall team speed on the offensive side. I thought defensively they played, with tremendous effort, tremendous, tenacity of getting to the ball, establishing a good front against an offensive line that averaged 6'5", 315, 320 across the front,
Right.
and doing a great job of really forcing them to do some things they didn't want to do. And so, like I said, I told our offense at halftime we had to pick up the pace, pick up the tempo, and bottom line was we had to make plays. We had some drops in there, and we had some times to make some plays, and it just wasn't all clicking
Right.
how we wanted it to. So in the second half, I thought they came out and played a little bit better, but we got some things that on both sides of the ball that we can work at, and correct, and really get good and hopefully ready for a Texas High team for sure.
The one thing that I've had a chance to watch over the years and sticks out is when you talk about the experience is your offensive line. I believe this may be the largest offensive line as far as pounds per man that you've had since you've been on campus. Talk about that group of guys, 4 seniors and a junior. How big is that?
It was something that we haven't had as far as just from, I think from an experience standpoint. Coach Wood's done a great job with those guys of really establishing a culture and identity within the offensive line group.
Right.
He played offensive line, so he gets, what it's about to play offensive line, knows kind of how those guys think and act, and, it makes it a place where those kids love coming to work every day.
Right.
So like I said, a lot of experience up there, a lot of guys that played a lot of significant snaps last year. Some of those were in different roles, different positions, but he's done a great job of piecing that thing together, like a puzzle earlier in the year, really starting back in January and February and say, okay, I think this can go here, here, and here. And those guys have, for the most part, played really, really well up front, gotten a lot of knockdowns and some things like that. So we've been pleased with that group.
Matt Heckman, a guy that I've watched on that offensive line and played a lot of football as a sophomore, was one of the starters on that undefeated state championship team. Talk about him in general, Coach, because I watched him during the offseason, and the kid moves like I hadn't seen very many linemen move. I mean, what do you think his upside will be as he is committed, I believe, to Army? What do you think he's going to be doing at the next level? And what's the outlook for him the remainder of the season?
He's just a big guy that's got a lot of athleticism. That's flexible at the hips, which is tremendous for him. He can move and get into a bunch of positions that not necessarily all the big guys can get into. He's one that can also. He's played center early on in his career, while he was at Oklahoma as a freshman, I believe. He's one that's just really grown and done a great job in the weight room, and I think that's kind of paying off for him, and he's really seeing the benefits of just that whole transition from, going from a sophomore to junior was big, but really going from a junior to senior is even bigger for him. So he's done a great job of, kind of being the vocal leader up there at front and really being able to ID and key, certain, whether it's pass protections or run combos and things like that. So he's just done a great job of approaching every single day and really going out and just putting the work in, and obviously it's paying off for him. Another
addition that you've had a chance to add in the offseason is something I think you've been wanting to do for quite some time, is add a strength and conditioning coach. You get Todd Barber in, and a guy with so many accolades. I mean, his portfolio is like tremendous, one of the best in the business. How big is that, not only for this year, Coach, but going forward with your football program?
Yeah, I told all of our athletic administration and everybody that was really associated with, getting Coach Barber here, and as well as interviewing all the other candidates, will single-handedly be the biggest hire that we can make as an athletic program, in my opinion. And I firmly believe that just from the amount of time, from a football standpoint that he spends with our kids, and really developing them, get to know them, pushing them, changing their mindset, obviously changing their body physically. And he's done an unbelievable job of connecting with them, but as well as really pushing them to change their mindset and change their body, get out of their comfort zone. And we told them after Friday night, that's the reason why we ran the ball down there and went for 2 and did that was because of all the things that he put them through in the summer.
Yes.
It's no different than those prowler pushes and everything that he had them do every single Friday. You put it on the one, you finish through the line. So that was something that we wanted to, engrave in our kids and let them know that, number one, we believed in them, but number two, like everything that we've done up to this point has gotten you ready for this, so let's go finish it.
You mentioned 2 numbers that I was going to ask you about. Number 1, Katavian Taylor, and number 2, Caleb Johnson. These are 2 guys, Coach, that played a significant amount of time their sophomore year. Ironically, they're having their first two games, big-time games. Catavia makes the game, pretty much the game tying, and then you guys went on for Caleb to get the two-pointer. But talk about those two seniors and just how they've started. Is this what you expected from those two?
Absolutely. That's the two kids they are. They work hard. They're tough. They go to practice every day and want to get better. So, nobody's shocked by both of those kids making those plays. Both those kids want the balls in your hand. So those are just two individuals on our team that if we had 250 of them, that did exactly like those things would be, then obviously everybody would be in a better situation. But they are just an unbelievable kid, unbelievable work ethic, unbelievable character that really just kind of, put their head down. Maybe not the most vocal kids in the whole group, but really just approach work every day and get out there and have fun at practice, but also strive to get better.
Now, a guy that's arrived, a move-in, Hank Hendricks. Coach, I thought 2 years ago, I'd never say what I said throughout the week, is there would be another guy with a similar talent as a Drake Lindsay. We all know how Drake finished his career, but Hank Hendricks, different breed, Coach. What are you seeing with this guy? And did he just fall in your lap, or how did that all come about?
Yeah, he's just a, you're going to get the same Hank, whether, you're up or you're down. It's tied. It's overtime. And so that's something that's just awesome when you're playing quarterback, because not only do you have to survive the emotions of the game, but you've also got to survive the emotions of everyone else on the sideline.
Right.
So, he's very even keel. Just approaches every single play as its own separate play, doesn't get too high on the highs, low on the lows as he's in the middle of the game, and, just puts his head down and really dictates where the ball goes. So he's, someone that's grown as far as wanting to be a vocal leader. The more that he's around everybody, he's done a great job of really, again, building the relationships and establishing those with the guys and knowing how to push their buttons.
One question I'd like to ask you, Coach. Been here 7 years here at Fayetteville. How have you seen yourself grow as a head coach? Because I know you were at Van Buren prior to coming here. How have you seen yourself grow over this?
Probably get a little more angry. Just kind of know a little bit more, obviously, about what we want to do. But that's a tribute to our staff, though, because now they understand. And so when you're at a certain place for 7 years and you got the majority of the same guys that are here, or you brought them in, there's obviously some expectations that go along with that, but there's also some things that they understand, how we want things done, why we want them done that way. But some of that's, a mentality standpoint. We tried to go for two the first time after we kicked the field goal, but we couldn't get everybody back, so we kicked it. But then, obviously, when they got the penalty, it was a no-brainer just from a, kind of the philosophical standpoint of me and who we are. If we're going to move it up, or we're going to go for it. And, I believed in our kids, and I told them we would do it 100 times out of 100 over again. So it's just who we want to be, and what we want our kids to do is just have that same, instinct of, hey, if we got an opportunity to change it, let's knock it out.
The thing we have noticed is defensively, a lot of playmakers. Junior Will Caston, who's got an Arkansas offer, committed D-back Brody Jones, who just got a Missouri offer, and committed Arkansas free safety Kendrick Williams. Coach, the one thing that you notice when you look into your secondary and pretty much that back seven, a lot of experience, Will Price and those guys. How valuable is that, when you play high school football in particular?
I don't think you can put a price tag on it. It's a lot like anything else, in life, whether you're in the workforce or whatever job you're working, the amount of experience you have, the amount of plays you played, you've been thrown in the fire. And some of those, again, sometimes you learn faster than others, and you have certain traits that are more applicable in certain situations and things like that. But that whole group, they've played a lot of snaps. Again, some of them got introduced as a sophomore, and then were in a little bit bigger role as a junior, or started as a junior, and now obviously they're playing full-time as seniors. So they've really been doing it for 3.5 years,
right,
and just kind of getting a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. Now they have a really good understanding of what we're asking them to do and are able to fly around. And I think that group you mentioned, they do a great job of flying around and really getting to the football. I think they're a pretty fast group, so obviously fortunate to have those guys.
One young man we have to talk about he was our player of the week defensively, Spencer Palladino, the sophomore. Talk about his ceiling and just the game that he had stepping in for an injured Will Caston. on Friday night and on a very big stage against what many of us know to be a great offensive coordinator in Coach Jay Wilkerson there at Broken Arrow.
Yeah, his role would just continue to grow just as much as he can hold and develop, and really whatever he can take, we'll give it to him. He's just a guy that has a lot of characteristics. We can play him in a variety of positions because he has some athleticism, obviously, to go along with it. And some of that now is, okay, how much can you learn and how much can we feed you, then how much can you go out there and really apply it to what you see. And so as a sophomore, that's kind of we'll kind of get him caught up as we go, get him up to speed, and feed him as much as he can handle. And if we start to feed him too much and he plays a little slower, then we'll back off and let him hang out where he's really, really comfortable. But I thought he did a great job of obviously coming downhill, making some tackles, playing a very physical team, and doing his responsibilities really well.
So that's one thing I've noticed about this staff, Coach. You guys don't hesitate with playing youth. I mean, you'll play a sophomore. You even have a freshman kicker, Mr. Farthing, who I think has a bright, bright future. Talk about that young man, because, I mean, not a lot of people have a freshman kicker that has the type of – he just prepares like a kicker. Talk about that young man.
Yeah, he's a good one. He does an unbelievable job every single day and comes out there like a lot of our kids and works his tail off. His deal is he just needs a little time. That's a deal that people don't like to give, and we're certainly not losing or giving up on him. And just like we talked to him after the game, he's got a very bright future. Is still obviously a really good kicker. Just some of those things that it's just kind of the speed bumps, the growing pains of really getting out there in front of a big-time atmosphere and everybody and just figuring it out. Sometimes they got to figure it out. It takes time, and he'll figure it out. But, he'll be ready to rock and roll. We have a whole 100% confidence in him and the job that he does and obviously what he's really capable of.
Talking with Casey Dick here on the Casey Dick Show. For those that have just tuned in, it's brought to you by Lindsay & Associates and the Grease Pig Lube and Tune off week. Casey, I mean, what does that look like, as far as preparation in the off week for your Fayetteville Bulldogs?
Yeah, we'll take a little step back and just obviously try to get some guys, healed up, healthy, ready to rock and roll. Watch some video, be in the weight room a couple days, 3 days this week. So, but we're also going to get back out on the field, start focusing on Texas High, trying to get some game plans and things implemented there to where when we come back, we may have an extra day or two that we can really spend and dive deep into them. So, won't change a whole lot, maybe just a little bit shorter, try to get our legs back and try to get some, bumps and bruises and everything healed up a little bit and look forward to a good next week.
What's your weekend plans looking like on this Friday?
Well,
games.
I got 2 kids, so I'm sure I'll be chasing everybody around Northwest Arkansas.
Well, hey, we'll be right back with much more here on the KC Dick Show. You're watching KC Dick on the Hill Media TV. Hey, guys, this is Pat Jenkins of On the Hill Media and voice of Fayetteville High Bulldogs Athletics. Make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's On the Hill Media. Make sure you hit the bell for all notifications. As we say, let's get it. Hey guys, this is Pat Jenkins of On the Hill Media and voice of Fayetteville High Bulldogs Athletics. Make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's On the Hill Media. Make sure you hit the bell for all notifications. As we say, let's get it. welcome back here live. It was to the KC Dick Show, brought to you by Lindsay and Associates and the Grease Pig Lubin Tune, as we talk today with head coach Casey Dick and defensive back coach Jimbo Scrimshire, the new DB coach here at Fayetteville. We'll be off next week. No games this weekend, but we'll be back Monday with much, much more of the KC Dick Shows. We'll break you even more in depth with the Fayetteville High School football program. We'll talk with D-back coach. I tell you what, we're going to do it now. Let's do it now. We're going to do it now. I'm going to bring him on live. Hey, when you're going good, you're going good. But we're going to close it out with Coach Pankey. Coach, welcome to Fayetteville.
Well, thank you very much, man. I'm excited to be here. I really am.
Coach, what went into the move? I mean, you had a great job there at Conway, the defensive coordinator of the Conway Wampus Cats. And, I mean, what went into the decision to leave all that and come join this Fayetteville staff?
I think I had a really good experience at Conway. I really did. It was a great spot to be, a good community. Up here there's just a lot of opportunities, and my family's always wanted to live up here this way, and I've always thought Fayetteville's a special place. They beat me twice in the playoffs, and I really wasn't real happy about it. Lost some close games, and so I came and joined the other side, and here I am now. We got some really talented kids, good community, and it just seems like a really nice place for me and my family to be.
What were some of the things you remember about Fayetteville from the outside kind of looking in? What makes Fayetteville so unique, Coach?
Yeah, I think, especially coming here just being in one district or one school in the district makes a big difference, and then, you kind of get the whole community behind you. And then from a football standpoint, I was watching it, man, those guys always played so fast. It looks like they're always having fun doing it. You play some teams and they're just, they execute really well and they're really disciplined, but these guys did that and they were flying around having fun. And so I just think they love to be here. They like to play. They like to be around each other, and it just makes such a big difference when they can do those things.
Now, in the offseason, you and I have talked a lot about that secondary, that you have a lot of seniors, a lot of experience, 2 Division I commits, and 2 that could play at the next level. Talk about how big that is, Coach, to have such an experienced secondary, and what's the ceiling for that group?
Yeah, I walked into a really good situation too. Coach Britt was here before me. And we went to college together, and we've coached together before. So when I came here, I knew a lot of the terminology would be the exact same as far as the way they're teaching techniques, and I knew they'd be coached. And so I was able to see those guys, and then, just the level at which they can play to. I'm just trying to get them to understand every day how good they can be. It's not about holding somebody to a certain amount of yards or doing this, that. It's about them being the very best that they can do themselves. And, I expect them, as talented as they are, to be a dominant performance for them. But it takes time too. D-back's different than a lot of positions because you have to be extremely disciplined every single play. It don't matter how good you are. If you play with bad eyes or if you get lazy or play with poor technique, somebody's going to find it. Especially in early, somebody's going to find it on film. And so just trying to preach that every week, the guys have really come along good as a group as far as trying to hold each other accountable. And they've kind of set the standard for where they want to be and where they want to get to, and we're kind of in that process right now of trying to work towards that.
I know the previous 2 games, Cabot, and then just this past Friday, 18-17 victory over Broken Arrow. What have you seen from your group on film that you can kind of build on, and then what are some of the things you feel like you have to clean up?
Even if you go back to the Greenwood scrimmage, the biggest thing that I've always preached is just getting your hands on receivers. Like if you're playing D-back, the best way to have good eyes is to feel whoever you're guarding.
Right.
And a lot of times that can free them up. And we scrimmaged Greenwood, did a really poor job of that. We watched on film, we'd pause it, and there'd be out of the 5 D-backs out there, nobody would be touching anybody. So it got a little bit better against Cabot. And then this week we've really tried to harp on it in practice, and they've started to see it a little bit more and just understanding that they're going to be able to make more plays that way and just disrupt the timing of the offense. And so that's kind of the one thing that, as I've watched the last couple of weeks, that we've been progressing on. We've had some busts, we've had some alignment issues, people have got us in some things, but the one thing that can solve that more than anything else is just putting your hand on somebody every play. Nobody likes to be touched, nobody. And so if you can just do that every single time and just be consistent with it, then it allows you to do a lot more as the game goes on.
Just talk about the cohesion with that defensive staff, Coach. I know 3 new coaches on that side of the ball with joining Coach Davis and Coach Harris, 2 holdovers. But just talk about just the cohesiveness and camaraderie that I've seen you guys have real early in the process.
It has. Anytime you do it, especially the way that we do it, you got to be open and honest with each other. And I've come from a different background where we were really good technical. We didn't do a whole lot. And so when I always watched Fayetteville on defense, I was like, you know what, that's the one thing we got to do on defense to get a little bit better. And Coach Davis is really, really good at that. He can pressure quarterbacks and create situations up front that allow the back end to do so much. So I think really just trying to learn from each other, and kind of understand where everybody fits into it. And, I'm doing the safeties, Coach Scrim's doing the corners, and we kind of have some mutual connections coaching-wise, and so some of our terminology has been the same. But anytime you get a new staff together, and even like Coach Craig, he's the linebackers coach. He's won state championships as a head coach, so it's a really unique experience for us all just to kind of learn from each other. But it takes time too.
Right.
There's even some situations that have came up as the season's gone on that we've been fixed, and you try to prepare so that when something happens or it's something you hadn't seen before, everybody has the same answer. But there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen. There's a lot of people that I think pretty much every single one of us have been a defense coordinator at some point.
That's awesome.
And so it allows that to kind of build a good plan and get along and hopefully put our kids in the best position, to have some success.
Talking with Coach Pankey here on the Casey Dick Show. Today's show is brought to you by Lindsay and Associates and the Grease Pig Lube and Tune. Coach, I want to talk some family because your family is kind of my family.
Oh, yeah.
As I've had a chance to coach summer ball, your wife, Emily, talk about, the Pankey household and just how the transition's going to Fayetteville.
Well, part of coming up here, too, my mom lives in Fort Smith, and her dad lives just in Oklahoma, and so we wanted to get closer to family. We have a 19-month-old and a 3-month-old right now, so our house is crazy. I mean, we're not sleeping a whole lot. It's something different all the time. But we moved up here. We're from Fort Smith. We've always liked this area and wanted to be here. She loves sports. She was a basketball player. But
yes, a very good basketball player.
She could play. And so she's just kind of understanding it. She's always been around it, too, just sports in general. And then my sister lives up here, too, and she has triplets. And they are just turned 1.
Oh.
So my mom went from having no grandkids to 5 grandkids in the matter of 16, 17 months. And so it's a unique experience for us all, but they're all able to grow up together. And, they're around a lot, and they come up here and see the games. So it's good opportunities for them.
What type of player does Coach Pankey look for to play defense in his scheme?
Yeah, I think somebody that loves football. If you love football, we're always going to get along. You can coach certain things, you can teach certain things, but that's the one thing that is the hardest to do. I want kids that if they love it, they're going to go to the extra mile to do whatever it is that you ask them to do. And so that's the number one thing I always look for.
Now you have off week, Coach. No football game this Friday night as Fayetteville will have an off week before you jump in to your last non-conference game at Texas High next Friday, a week from Friday. But what's on the agenda this weekend?
Well, I usually still like watching football games. I know it's usually after the kids go down. So I'll probably watch some games this weekend, and then, I'll probably watch some of the games on Friday, some of the opponents in our conference, just kind of get an idea where people are at. And then Saturday, I think Hogs are playing Ole Miss.
Yes.
So that's what I know what I'm doing that evening. I know I'll be sitting there watching that one. But other than that, man, we try to, our time here, we coach and work a lot. And so we try to, when I get away, I really try to spend it with my kids and try to be a dad. And then when they go to sleep, then I'll start watching football again. So that's kind of where it's at. Yeah.
Well, hey, there you have it. It's our final segment with Coach Pankey here on the Casey Dick Show. We want to thank our sponsors, Lindsay and Associates and the Grease Pig Lube and Tune, for the production of the Casey Dick Show each and every week here every Monday at 2 o'clock. Be sure and join us as we'll be here every Monday following the Bulldogs on Friday night. But, hey, thanks a lot for Coach
Yes, sir.
Pankey.
Appreciate it.
Thanks my producer, Demetrius Johnson, and all our viewers. Hey, we'll be back next week. You've been watching the Casey Dick Show on the Hill Media TV. And you know what I say. Let's get it. Guys, this is Pat Jenkins of On the Hill Media and voice of Fayetteville High Bulldogs Athletics. Make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's On the Hill Media. Make sure you hit the bell for all notifications. As we say, let's get it.